Hello students, welcome to this Frames 5 video tutorial on Pong Part 2. Please open your Pong file in Frames 5 from your application screen. Let's review what we've done so far. Let's click on frame 1 and let's click play. So we've had the ball move in one path and we've moved our paddle to meet that ball. Okay, so make sure you're on the final frame. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the rebound off of the paddle and move the ball in a different direction upwards. So on the right hand panel, in the tools panel, let's go back to shapes and let's click on the arrowhead again. Let's reduce the width size. So from the center of the ball, I would like you to start your arrowhead and I would like you to create a diagonal angle upwards and to the right. Let's deselect. Now if you don't like that angle initially, then you can change it. What I'm going for is I'm going for a little bit different angle from when the ball was going down. Alright, let's duplicate the frame. Let's go up to View and let's turn on the onion skin. So we've used this technique before. Let's move the ball now upwards along the arrowhead, keeping that consistent overlap that we used in the first path. Let's deselect, let's duplicate, and let's continue the motion of this ball along the new path. Make sure you deselect before you duplicate or you'll simply duplicate the ball. Remember, keep the ball centered on that path. Keep this process going over and over. Make sure you deselect before you duplicate the frame. You should be approaching the right wall or the right edge of the frame shortly. Now as you approach the wall, we definitely want to show the contact with the right edge of the frame or the right wall. So I'm going to duplicate. I'm at that point now. Now again, I may have to adjust my overlap levels. Actually, my overlap kind of was almost consistent. It may be a little bit shorter, it may be a little bit longer. That's okay, but you definitely want to show the ball hitting the right wall. Okay, so let's deselect. Alright, let's duplicate. Okay, so I think you can predict what's coming next. So I'm going to go back to the shape tool. I'm going to click on the arrowhead. I'm going to reduce the width. Now, from the center of the ball, I want this ball to rebound upwards. So how about here? Now don't worry about the size. If the size of the arrowheads are not consistent, we're going to delete them in the end. Alright, now that I've created my new path, let's duplicate. I want to deselect and duplicate. Alright, my onion skin is still on, so I will continue the path of the ball in the upwards direction. Make sure that you are deselecting after every move and before you duplicate. A lot of what animators do is very repetitive. As long as you know what you're doing or what it's going to look like ahead of time, then you can always work towards that goal. Doesn't matter how repetitive it is. Okay, so this path is much shorter, so I'm actually getting pretty close to the top edge or the top edge of the frame. So I'm going to use the same technique. I want to move it so that the ball hits the edge of the frame. And again, I've been pretty lucky that the overlap has been pretty consistent. Okay, that's just pure luck. The previous time that I did a test one, it never worked out that way. Okay, so now that I've hit the top edge of the frame, I want to go back to the shape tool, create a new path with the arrowhead, and just naturally, just think about physics, okay? This ball is going to hit the top and it's going to angle downwards again. So how about we go in this type of angle like this? Okay. Okay, so now that I've created the new path, let's deselect. I'm going to duplicate the frame, and I'm going to move that ball along the new path. Make sure you deselect before you duplicate. Now this path is a little bit longer, so it's going to take me more frames to get to the left edge of the frame or the screen, and that's fine. That's what makes Pong a little bit more challenging, is that sometimes you don't have a lot of time to move your paddle. Sometimes you have a long time to watch the path of the ball, but sometimes you have to react very quickly. Alright, so I'm going to continue repeating this technique over and over until I get close to the left edge of the frame. Getting pretty close to the left edge, so I'm going to have to stretch this one a little bit. My overlap is going to be a little bit smaller so I can hit that wall. Okay, so now I've got it so that the ball is all the way on the left hand side, and I'm going to start its path downwards again so that I can play the game and I can move my paddle to meet the ball again. Alright, so from the right hand side, I'm going to click the shape tool, click on the arrowhead, reduce the width, and I'm going to create the rebound downwards. How about in this direction this time? A very steep angle. It's not going to give me a lot of time to move my paddle. Okay, so let's deselect. Let's duplicate the frame. Let's move the ball downwards, keeping that overlap somewhat consistent. Deselect and duplicate. Deselect and duplicate. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the ball here because it's getting pretty close to where it would make contact with the paddle. Alright, let's deselect. Alright, we haven't saved in a while, so let's save. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've done. So using the slider at the bottom, let's go all the way back to frame 1. Let's turn off the onion skin, and then let's press play. So we know the first part, where the ball was moving downwards hitting the paddle, because that was in tutorial 1. Now it's rebounded up. Don't worry about how slow it is. We're going to fix all of that. We're going to make it look a lot more natural. We're just checking the paths to make sure that the ball is moving at a consistent kind of motion. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now you've got to decide. You've got to put your head you got to put yourself in the head of the gamer that's playing this game. So at what point would you start moving your paddle? Well, if you like to take a lot of risks, or if you're not a very good player, you would react very late. But if you're a good player and you've played this game a while, you would see the ball moving across and you would anticipate that it would hit this wall and then move downwards. So you would know that you would probably have to move your paddle. So maybe when the ball is right about here, would you start moving your paddle? So let's try to find that frame. So in the timeline, try to look for a position where the ball is at where you would start moving your paddle. So maybe I'm thinking as it's heading towards the left wall, I'm kind of anticipating that it might go directly downward. So maybe from this point, I'm going to start moving my paddle, even if it's only a little bit. Alright, let's go back to view and let's turn on the onion skin. Okay, so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I better start moving my paddle to the left just in case. Okay, so just a little bit. Alright, click on the next frame. Let's move the paddle again, just a little bit. You're being cautious here. Okay, Then click on the next frame. Start moving your paddle. And then once you've seen it hit the wall and it's going down, then you know for sure that you better get over to the left to meet that ball. So click on the next frame. See how helpful the onion skin is to have it there to know how far to move an object? All right, click on the next frame. And then click on the next frame. And by now you know that that ball is coming straight down. So you better get your paddle over there. Let's go on the next frame. And because the ball is so close to the left-hand edge, by the time the ball comes down, your paddle is basically covering or blocking that left edge. Okay. So we're probably not going to get another ball in here, in between where my ball is and the paddle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the ball so that I can show it hitting the paddle. Now unfortunately, I don't have a lot of overlap between this ball and the position of the ball in the previous frame. But that's okay. Sometimes we're just going to have to move things, manipulate things a little bit. Okay. So let's go up to View and let's turn off the onion skin. Alright, so let's see what we've done here. We want to see the movement of the paddle to meet the ball the second time. So let's click on frame 1 and press play. Now again, as I've said, the animation, the video is moving very slow. But we're going to fix that in the next video. We're going to make it look a lot more realistic. Right now, we're just making sure that everything works. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Again, once you watch it and there's the little errors or things you think the ball is moving too far, then you can go back and adjust that. Alright, let's click Save. This concludes this Frames video tutorial on Pong Part 2. Please continue on with the next tutorial without calling Mr. Ueda over. Thanks for watching. Bye.